morning, everybody. It is Monday. I'm suddenly struck by load shedding, but otherwise all is well on the side of like a massive flood over the weekend. It's just been insane. But I've got Mash and I got Leigh-Ann, and we are a full complement of people to look after you this first day of a brand new week. And we're pretty much halfway through November, and I'm just saying it's all happening much too fast for my liking. I know it irritates people, but I gotta say it because it's how it feels. All right, Mash, hey, man, what's happening, you two?
Good morning. Good morning. I am so disappointed in you two to begin with because I do not see any Christmas decorations in the background.
No, but not yet. I only put up my Christmas decorations like probably
2 weeks. It is, isn't it? 2 weeks before.
It's meant to be 12 days. Yeah, 12 days before Christmas, and you can take them down 12 days after. That's tradition, but a lot of people like to put them up at the beginning of December. You know, the shops like to put them up beginning of November. Have you already done your Christmas decorations, Mash?
Yeah, they're already up. Should I do Paris?
Maybe a little. Unless you like selling stuff from home. And it's a store, it's merchandise, you know, then you can copy like the Woolworths and the Checkerses.
There's nothing to sell, you know, apart from candles and love.
No, I think this year I'll put up mine probably first week of December, because then, you know, it's ready for everything. Ass, did you color your hair?
No, it's not in a pony. This is my natural color, by the way. It used to. My natural color used to be blonde.
Leigh-Ann, bad girl, damn. No, it looks really good.
This is what happens when you start becoming what they call now. We didn't know it existed before, but perimenopausal.
What does that mean?
Are you really going to use that term to describe yourself? Please don't. It makes it so like uncool,
unattractive, uncool.
Is it like a hot?
I don't really care. It's where I am in my life, and I'm having fun, and I'm enjoying it.
Okay, well, if you've decided to own the term, just explain it to us.
So it's the years preceding proper menopausal or menopause.
God.
Menopause is when you completely like shut down shop, right? Not shop, right? Just shut down shop.
Oh my God. All right.
But leading up to that can actually be between 10 and 15 years of it. And it's a term that hasn't been recognized in the past. And now that there's a much bigger focus on women's health, it explains a lot of symptoms for a lot of people. Complete change of hair color, natural hair color. My hair is now curly. It used to be dead straight. This is a natural curl now. Just smaller changes like a bit of brain fog, a little bit of, when you're crossing.
You've had brain fog for years. Let's not blame this on the menopause or anything, all right?
Well, for me, then it's brain foggier. So I've got a little bit more brain foggier.
Mm-hmm.
Things like if you're crossing a road in a car, you look left, you look right, there are no cars, but then you don't kind of trust what you've seen. So you have to look again. And then you start understanding why older people act like they do. But with it comes wisdom, mounds of wisdom, and experience. So
these are good things. All right, so I've got a list here. I've never heard of this term before, but I've actually looked it up now while you were talking about it. So it says here, it refers to a time during which your body makes a transition to menopause, marking the end of the reproductive years. So, all right, here are some of the things.
Thank goodness for that.
Physiological things: anger, anxiety, depression, irritability, dizziness, difficulty concentrating, fatigue, and mood swings. But I know way too many girls in their 20s and 30s who are like that already.
Yeah, those are very, very broad
very broad categories. And then physical, we've got the hot. Okay, so say yes if you have these, Leigh-Ann. The hot flash.
1000%.
Night sweats.
Yes.
Oh my God. Reduced libido.
No, not that.
Okay. Well, that's a good one. So you're still horny. All right. Weight gain.
Weight gain, no. I've actually lost a bit.
Good. That's a good one. So we've got your libido and your weight still. Urinary incontinence.
No, look, I have to make sure that if I'm leaving someone's home, I need to go to the loo before I get in the car and make the trip, because I could find myself in a situation where I'm at the end of my driveway and I cough and there's an issue, a small issue.
Isn't perimenopause though really technically the end of your driveway anyway?
It's the middle of the end. It's the beginning of the end.
So, all right, and then vaginal dryness. Do you have that?
No.
Okay,
no.
good.
Leigh-Ann, you don't have any of these.
And bloating?
That sort of bloating, no, I don't have that. I'm pretty regular.
Sure? Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So it's not too bad. It's just the start,
Oh.
you know.
God, all right. Well, listen.
You know what? Leigh-Ann, just slip and slide. Sounds like you're still winning in life at this very moment. And that's what matters.
Yeah, right.
No, exactly. All's good in the hood and under the hood.
Okay, well, there's something you didn't know this Monday morning that Leigh-Ann has just enlightened us to. Okay, so now we are talking perimenopausal stuff.
Yeah.
All right, a couple of comments here. Some people are saying that with the Christmas tree, Christmas trees are as stupid, Sanele says, as Christmas itself, and everything that has to do with it, like the illusion of Santa. There will be no dumb tree or any of that in my house. Sanele, listen.
You sound perimenopausal.
Yeah, you sound perimenopausal, and you sound like the Grinch, and it's not a good look on you, Sanele. Come on. I mean, this is my favorite time of the year. I love Christmas. I'm not a big religious nut. I'm also not some kind of massive gift giving Santa Claus worshipping, whatever. But I love Christmas because when I was a kid and throughout our lives, it's been like family time, and I just love it. It makes me happy. I get like a little bit of excitement, like a little kid, and I love the decorations. I love the lights. I love the music. I love all of it. I think Mash does too. That's why he put up his decorations already. He's into this.
Mm-hmm. No shame.
Yeah, I kind of am. I just want gifts. Yeah.
Yeah, you just want gifts. That's fine. I mean, whatever you're, take it all. Tracy says the brain fog thing is real, and then you doubt and double check what you've already double checked. Menopause is not a joke. It's worth celebrating. Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. You do tend. I mean, it is something I've done before, but it becomes more pronounced. You tend to tell people the same story that you've already told them.
Oh no, that happens to old people, and then you sit there going, "Oh God, I've heard this story like twice before."
And you just the younger ones shake their heads and just agree.
This happens to old men as well. So, do men also get a type of menopause, or what do you call it when it happens to men?
No, Mash, nothing happens to men. They're perfect. It's only women that have issues. Men are absolutely fine up until and can still have children until they're 90.
Doesn't mean we're perfect. Let me tell you something.
Yeah.
Given the choice of spending, if you had to hold a gun to my head and said, I have to spend the next 20 years of my life with an old person living in my house, would I rather have an old man or an old woman? I would say old woman 100 times over. Old women, and this is not just because, I had like two really nice grandmas, because I haven't had a lot to do with very old people for a long time, right? I've been
Yours
fortunate.
Exited a bit early.
Yeah, they did us the favor of like not being in the way as very old, irritating people. But I've seen a lot of other older, wise people. I mean, I've got friends. I mean this, friends who are in their 70s and 80s, and I have the most interesting conversations with some of these people. And it's just, to me, the old women. There's a thing about like an old woman is sometimes not only wise and sort of grandmotherly, but really old women can sometimes be hilariously funny. They've got like character. They've got a little bit of eccentricity going with them. Now, don't get me wrong. Old men can be very eccentric as well, but they're usually very annoying. And I've seen like a lot of old men, they become supremely habitual. They start doing the same thing over and over again. They don't like any change to their routine. They go to the same places. They talk to the same people. It's mostly, and old men always talk about themselves more than any other subject. It's me, the whole fucking time. Whereas with older women, it's not as irritating. That's my appreciation and understanding of it. So given the choice, gun to the head, rather have the old woman hanging around than the old man. That's what I feel.
They tend to be a little bit more spicy than old men. And they also, if you notice, Shame, it's really sad, but when a man loses his wife at an old age, he kind of really closes up. And it's difficult for him to move on, and the routine thing definitely becomes a big part. Whereas a woman may, and this is a generalization, be able to move on a bit faster, make new friends and start new activities.
They get a new lease on life. I mean, I think women respond to that sort of change a lot better than men. Again, it's a generalization, as you've said, but that's our understanding. So listen, after that clangor from Leigh-Ann about the perimenopause, we've got quite a lot to get through today. We've got quite a lot to talk about. First of all, I got a really nice message from someone yesterday saying, "Oh my God, thank Gareth's not in Istanbul." Carol on Facebook said that, but there was a bomb in Istanbul over the weekend. In fact, there's a video that accompanied it, which I saw on Instagram. Really just awful, like in Istiklal Street, which I was on that street, 4 weeks ago.
Oh my gosh.
And 6 people are dead, dozens are wounded. The death toll may go up, but horrible, horrible story that happened in Istanbul in Turkey over the weekend. And we'll keep an eye on that story too. The other thing that I'm sure you would have seen over this weekend is that video, Mash, I know you saw it, of the two planes colliding in the air. It's just like everybody, because I've got a lot of friends who fly, and I sent it to all of them, and they all replied like, "Is this for real?" Because they couldn't actually believe what they were seeing. There was like this slightly larger plane, and then this smaller plane that flies into it, and they both obviously plummet to the ground, and there's just a big explosion. And I don't think anyone survived any of it. But my God, like to see that visual and to know that it's not some Hollywood special effect, it's just horrible. And
very raw.
Those are two depressing as F things over the weekend. And then we had so much rain. I'm sure you did as well.
And you're by the river, so what's happening there?
Well,
you need to be reporting live from the riverside.
I should. If I could open the window now, you would probably hear the river because it's coming down, and it has been the whole weekend. I mean, some of the bridges around here, my sister couldn't get across to this side, and there's one road where there's a sinkhole under the road, and it's quite a big road. It's quite a sort of main road here, and you imagine driving your car over that. Nothing's happened yet, but there's a lot of dolomite in this area, and if there's too much water, the ground actually just opens up. There's sinkholes, and then this has happened under this road. So you can imagine that's really, really dangerous, because if you drove your car over it, you could just fall into this huge sinkhole. And it's happened in this area quite a lot. So they've cordoned off the road. People can't use it. And there'll be a bunch of people who are more than just a little bit what would you even say it is? It's like it's slightly inconvenient. So they'll be inconvenienced this morning. That's the word. So anyway, there's a couple of things that happened to me over the weekend. Other than that, I went out for a lovely birthday dinner on Saturday, and I decided to call it quits quite early. I was in bed at home by 11, which is not bad for a Saturday night. So I felt I felt so adult about that, because usually I'd be like, oh, well, let's go out and have a few drinks after dinner, which we tried. And then when I walked into this place, I was like, nah, this is not good. So I just called the Uber and went home. And that was nice, because then I got into bed, had a fat sleep Saturday night, and woke up feeling pretty fresh yesterday. You do anything fun, Mash? Mash has always got stories.
Unfortunately, I didn't do anything so fun this weekend. I continued having electricity problems. So I spent most of my time at a friend's house, one of my friend's houses. And that was pretty much it for me this weekend. But I did fall down the rabbit hole of these other videos that I discovered on YouTube. And so they actually tie back to what you just said about the rain, about the flooding, especially in Centurion. And it's videos of people in England where the road is flooded. And these people are so ambitious. They just try to drive through the flooded road.
Yes, I've seen those. I've seen those. These tiny little cars that think they're going to make it. They're floating.
These are my favorite videos at the moment.
And even in this country, it happens a lot, right? South Africans think, oh no, I mean a bakkie. It's usually these people who drive these big SUVs and bakkies and things, and they think, oh no, I don't have to worry about that flood. It's only up to like halfway up my tires. I think I can make it across here. Let me tell you something. Some of that water is coming down at such a speed and with such force that it'll just sweep you right off that bridge. And it does. That's what happens to people.
Yes.
And then it becomes like the rescue people's problem, because now they have to like pull you out of there. And I mean, whether or not you actually survive, there's still your car is now, in a river. That has to come out.
What makes these videos even funnier is when people, especially with small cars, some people have really expensive cars and they think, oh, my car's like 200 pounds. It can go through anything. And then they try to drive through, and then next thing you know, the lights start flickering, the car just stops, it starts smoking, and then this poor person has to climb out the window and climb on top of their car and beg people to actually like rope them out, and then everyone on the sidewalk. And keep in mind, this happens so often that on the sidewalk or on the sidelines of this you can just call it a mini river, people know what happens here. People know that people are ambitious and are going to try cross here. So everybody, it's just tons of people with cameras set up on the side banks. And they're just laughing the whole time. They're like, yeah, you can join the rest of them. And then when the camera turns, there's like 10 other cars that are broken down on the side of the road, just outside this little river. So I feel like we're going to be seeing a lot of that going forward, because I think we still have quite a bit more rain coming down, especially in Johannesburg area.
So someone said to me that the plan, and I know it's boring to talk about the weather, but this is important, like the perceived weather pattern that is going to unfold over the next few weeks, even up to the end of summer, is like 3 days of rain, 3 days of sun, 3 days of rain, 3 days of sun. But there was so much rain. I mean, it was like over 200 mils this weekend where I am.
And it's so strange to think that just a few weeks ago we had water restrictions and we weren't allowed to fill up our pools, and now we're having to drain our pools because they're overflowing. It's just bizarre.
Yeah, you just got to be careful, especially if you are in an area where there's like low water bridges and things like that, because as Mash takes great joy in watching people being washed away, it's horrible. And it can happen to anybody if you do dumb stuff where there's, and you could even be, like I said, driving along a road, there's some sinkhole you don't know about. And you've got to, sometimes it's just bad luck. But if you can avoid those places, especially when it's been, and also people they lose their minds when it rains. It seems like people already drive badly, but they drive extra badly when there's a lot of rain. Okay, so Corona's Boring says people with lowered suspension are the first to regret their modifications during flooding. In Durban, Phoenix was disproportionately affected during the flooding. That's horrible.
I don't know how much truth is in that, but it could be.
So apparently the two planes, thanks to Mike Turnbull, you see, we've got such clever people who listen to this. Those two planes that collided were a B-17 and a P-63 Air Cobra of the Commemorative Air Force in America. It was in Texas. Irreplaceable World War. And obviously persons killed there as well, which is just terrible.
That is absolutely terrible. But Twitter being Twitter, everyone on social media actually wanted someone to blame. And people started analyzing and psychoanalyzing the video and saying, as you can see, the big plane should have moved much slower. The small plane should have moved much slower. They should have turned there. They should have done this. They should have done that. And then we had another crowd of people. I don't know if it's just stupidity, if it's just stupid people, or if they're just trolling. But there were people who were actually attacking the people taking the videos. So this was an air show. So there were actually multiple videos circulating from multiple angles. And people posted these videos immediately after it happened. And people on social media were like, oh, you're going to just record a video instead of helping? And that's the narrative that people are pushing.
Are you meant to climb into the fucking cockpit of the plane while it's flying over? Are you meant to go and help put out the flames of the fireball that happens when it hits the ground? What do these people who say that expect? I love how everybody's like, I would have done this or I would have done that. Just, you know, how about you take a minute and just go, wow, that's awful. I'm so sorry. I feel terrible for the people who lost their lives. How great that it wasn't me, because I'm able to actually live another day. But instead it's like, I'm going to done this and this is what I think, and there's people helping. Also,
all the experts come out.
There's another part of this which nobody likes to acknowledge, but human nature is a fucking horrible thing, right? You know that people watch Formula One hoping for a crash. You know that people go to an air show hoping for a crash. You know that people like to watch really competitive sports, like even golf, which was over the weekend, the Nedbank Challenge. Someone in the crowd is actually there just hoping that someone gets hit in the head by a golf ball, because that would
Jesus.
People are, no, but Leigh-Ann, this is what people are like, and we don't want to acknowledge it because it makes us sound like we're really horrible, and we are. Like, some people are obviously much worse than others, but I know that there are people who go and watch sports events to see a calamity.
Yeah,
no, that's very true. I mean, you look at fight type sports where you want to see someone knocked out, unconscious. I mean, it's crazy.
I don't like watching that stuff.
But, it's not the funnest thing.
Yeah, I mentioned the golf. That was a big thing over the weekend, also kind of put out by a lot of rain. And it was nice seeing, Sun City in all of its glory, because I was there just a few weeks ago, and I have to say, like, it could do with a lick of paint and some attention. But we didn't see that side of it. They put on a good show for the weekend. And it is still one of those things. It's like a South African institution. You're winding down to the end of the year when the Nedbank Golf Challenge comes along.
Yeah.
So it's something to think about. Also, it's another thing on the calendar that marks this time of year. All right. We've got Dr. Hanan coming on a little bit later on. We'll talk to him with It's Going to Be Okay. All of that's just around the corner. We will also be catching up this morning with Debbie Droke, who's a friend of mine from America. She's going to give us a general catch up and also talk about the US midterm elections. Just as a citizen, she lives in Washington, so there's a lot that she will be able to tell us that we wouldn't be able to figure out from the journalists and the serious people. Debbie's got a much more interesting take on some of this stuff. Also, we're going to, with Dr. Hanan, discuss the Sonia Matthew Booth thing, because I think he's got a few issues to unpack there for us, and we'll get to all of those just now. Apparently, you've got this in your stories, Leigh-Ann, and I don't know what this is all about. I know who Prue Leith is. She's the judge on the Great British Bake Off.
Yes,
but
she's actually. Excuse me.
She doesn't seem like a controversial person. Is she in trouble for something?
It's really quite bizarre. So Prue Leith is actually South African, but she's a judge on the Great British Bake Off.
Right.
Lovely woman, loves to bake, knows her baking, knows her history of baking. So it's the last thing you'd expect from her. But there is a bit of controversy surrounding the show all of a sudden. In her memoir about her family, her life growing up, specifically in South Africa, she mentions a time of her life when she was really young, about her mother asking her to drown a litter of kittens that had just been born.
Oh, wow. Not laughing because I think drowning kittens is horrible, because now I can see where this is going.
Yeah, of course.
It is horrible.
And like we know from that series, Don't Fuck with Cats.
Fuck with cats.
You just don't stir the cat loving community, okay?
No.
So the thing is that was a bit of a reality back in the day.
Oh yeah.
You know,
and Prue Lee's she's like, she must be 70 or 80 years old.
Yeah, exactly. So she's actually shed some light and given some context on as to why she was asked to drown kittens. And it was the early 1940s in South Africa, and she mentioned that it was commonplace, and this is largely true, where they were living at the time, is to drown kittens to maintain the cat population.
Yeah.
It was before the days that you could drop off a box of kittens at the vet or at the fire station or something like that.
You take matters into your own hands, right?
Exactly. Take matters into your own hands. So, I mean, obviously now our minds are completely in a different place when it comes to that. Obviously, we are all pro-rescue and pro-rehabilitate and pro-life and all of this. So it sounds terrible, but she admits that it was the most traumatic, awful, horrible experience.
Sure.
So, yeah, but anyway, when she found out about her mother's plans, she actually tried to stop them. Her mom responded by saying it has to be done. And she actually went through this traumatizing experience by herself. And she said it's something that she would never forget. And that's why she brings it up in her book. You know, if she was nonchalant about it, she probably wouldn't have even thought about bringing it up in her memoir. So, of course, there's a bit of a backlash. Everyone likes to hear some horror story about the baking lady.
Oh,
yeah, I feel sorry for her too, because she's telling a story in her memoir. She grew up at this time. And it seems to me like people have really lost the ability to understand that history, people thought differently and behaved differently and had different standards for everything, including, you know, pets. Like my parents will say, when they had dogs, their dogs lived outside and they ate like pup if they were lucky, and a bone. That was their meal for the day. And they got one meal a day if they were lucky. And the rest of they'd go and find their own food, these dogs, because they were farm dogs. Now, if you say that to people today, they're like, oh, that's animal abuse. I mean, even let's just take it to parenting. And this is something that I think Ben and I discussed a while ago. When I was a kid, my parents during the holidays would do whatever they were doing. They'd say, bye-bye, you know, boys, to me and my brother. And he and I would go down to the river or up to the mountain, or we'd go and visit our friends or whatever else. We got on our bicycles, and they would only see us again at like 4, 5, 6 in the afternoon.
Yeah.
And
that's as recent as your and my upbringing.
Mine too.
I mean, you think about the 40s.
Right, Mash?
Yes. Yeah, we used to play in the rivers and all that.
And now if you let your kid like out of the house unsupervised and they go like 3 houses down to their friend who lives there, the parents get called by like social workers to say, is everything all right at home? You know, we saw little Johnny was walking, he was playing in the driveway, and you know, that's very, very dangerous. And people who are alive now and who have, especially in the first world, and you know, we joke about first world problems, but there's this ridiculous thing that happens where people apply the standards of today to people from every other generation before. And then they sit and criticize like they're any better. Like they are, you know, somehow they're superior to those people who came before. Actually, in some ways, they're probably inferior. And I mean, clearly, nobody wants to drown kittens. Even nobody wanted to even, you know, 200 years ago. But that was the way you disposed of unwanted animals, rather than let them, you know, get feral and make even more cats
and breed.
And
you had to deal with your own problems. There wasn't much support in that way at all. You didn't go into Facebook and say, hey, I've got some kittens that need a home. And I mean, that new way of looking at events from the past can be applied to anything, like sexual activity, the way women were treated sexually. And you can't go back and say that was, you know, uncalled for and they shouldn't have behaved like that. A lot of it just happened. That's the way it was. And thank goodness for times now. But also I was in Hyde Park. I had a friend's birthday lunch yesterday. So into Hyde Park Shopping Centre we went, sat in one of those middle restaurants where everyone can see you and you can see everyone else.
Yeah.
And it actually took the kids at the table, while they were in high school, to notice that, point out all of the groups of young girls who were walking around, and they had two enormous bodyguards following them. And that just made me think of what you were saying, Gareth. I remember going off on my bicycle with a bell and a basket and a map book and disappearing until the sunset again.
Yeah.
And it
we
makes,
didn't even
it makes
have phones. If you
Yeah.
got lost or something, you'd have to ask one of the other people who lives in the neighborhood. You'd have to knock on their door and say, "Excuse me, ma'am," or, "Hi, sir, would you mind just telling me how I get back onto this road?" And I'm talking like primary school. I wasn't.
Yeah, of course.
I was a kid, a real kid, and
8 years old.
the world wasn't frightening and scary to me. It was exciting, and like there. Also, look, I mean, there are those situations where like there are creeps and pedophiles and horrible people around,
Yeah.
but by and large, I just got to remind everybody, they don't want your kid. Your kid's not that fucking sexy that there's pedophiles waiting around every corner to try and grab them. Just calm down. Not every, and there are a lot of horrible things that kids have to put up with these days. But I promise you, the most horrible thing they have to put up with is this phone. It's not like what's going to lurk on the streets around their house. And there are obviously dangers. So I'm not making fun of that. I wouldn't want to be a parent. It must be a tough fucking job.
No,
There must be
absolutely.
so many things you have to consider. But I just am so grateful I had the childhood I did, where you could build a swing in a tree, you could build a fort, you could go and like, ride your bike around. I had such a happy childhood because I wasn't being helicoptered by my parents everywhere and being like nursemaided until the age of 20. I just think it breeds a lot of really, really dumb, really weak, and really pathetic people who are constantly worried about things that aren't even going to happen to them.
I
And
don't
who
know
are
if I,
allergic to
I don't
everything.
know I don't know if I
What's
feel
that,
that
Matt?
strongly.
And who are allergic to everything.
Allergic to everything, and they have like 10 mental health disorders before the age of 10. I mean, it's like these kids they just caught, and it's not the kids' fault, it's the parents, because the kids can't make the rules. It's the parents who are making these stupid rules and ruining these kids' childhoods. I mean, there's there's
Absolutely.
a certain amount of like sensible caution that is to be considered. Again, I'm glad this is not something I have to think about every day. But wow, imagine growing up in this cotton wool environment that so many kids now do, especially in countries like America and in parts of Europe. I mean, we're lucky in South Africa. I think a lot of people in South Africa still have the ability to like keep their head on their shoulders. But I mean, if you think of American kids in towns and cities and the way they grow up now, there's no life for them. There's no excitement. Everything's you're kind of kept in a sterile environment until you're 20 and you're released into the world. And all you've got as part of your personality, because you don't have a personality, is a list of mental disorders. You're on a bunch of medications. You're allergic to everything, and the whole world is terrifying. What an awful way to grow up.
And Fortnite and Minecraft skills. That is it.
Exactly. Oh, that's so true. Oh, that's
And
so
it
true.
takes me back to growing up in Kwakwa. My experience was so different from kids of today as well. You guys said your upbringing was so free, and you guys were building swings and riding your bikes to rivers and stuff like that. I was doing that as well. And this was in the early 2000s. And I remember in our communities, going back to also the cats being drowned. So I grew up in a community where if you had a cat, period, you are a witch. And even today, if you have a cat in that community, you're still a witch. But that didn't deter us as kids, because we'd go to the witches' houses and our parents would be so nonchalant about it. They'd be like, "Oh, you're at the witch's house? Yeah, the witch is actually very nice. She made us tea and she made us porridge." And my parents would be like, "Oh, okay, cool," and keep it moving. They were so nonchalant about everything, and everything was so, we just grew up so freely, and we weren't being helicoptered. I mean, kids nowadays, their parents, I mean, I saw Apple now sells what's it called? AirTag armbands that you can put on your kids, where you can actually track your kids with such precise accuracy as if you're playing Pokemon Go.
It's really difficult, though, Mash, to draw the line. And as non-parents, I don't think we have much say. But
yeah,
seeing those teenage girls walking around with the bodyguards following them, my initial reaction was, oh, that's ridiculous. And then I thought, if I had the money and the means and children that I was worried about, they wanted their freedom from their parents, would I let them walk around shopping centers? But if I had the means and the money, I probably would have someone, walk with them and just look out for them. It's really difficult. It's the same as now that the technology is available for us to tag or chip our animals. We do, so maybe it's okay with kids. We've been tracking their phones for years.
Well, yeah, probably not close enough, because that's where the real evil lurks, if you ask me. So Giga Shack says, I had to shoot cats around the farmhouse as a youngster. It wasn't fun for me. Well, yeah, again, like on farms and things, cats can be a real pest, because if you farm with chickens or whatever else, the cats will actually be a nuisance, and they will get in the way of your chicken farming. So you can't have feral cats running around. And I know this is very sad, and it makes a bunch of people who have cats as pets feel like, it's uncomfortable and nasty and shit. I mean, we're not advocating this kind of thing, but it was just a reality. Shani says, I lived on a farm. I paid 50 cents for a ride on a donkey cart driven by a stranger. What a life. UK, I was stalked and chased by hooligans. Yeah. That's why people watch videos of people fishing instead of being able to do it themselves, says TP. Yeah, I mean, listen, a lot of people are doing this. They're trying to get some of the excitement and joy of other people's childhood by living vicariously through their videos on social media, which is also cool. Just a quick question from David. He says, just heard Mashes from Kwakwa. Is he family of Mabale Moloi? He's not, but...
I am not, but I think Mabale's family is like a few blocks away.
But yeah, Kwakwa is huge. It is a massive, massive place.
That's the thing.
Someone was telling me about how huge Thohoyandou is, and how many people are building massive, massive houses there. Like big, big money in places like Thohoyandou now. So that's also something to think about. Henny says, back on the drowning of cats, Jock of the Bushveld was saved from being drowned in a bucket because he was the runt of the puppies. Times were different then. No, that's how the story starts, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You didn't try and save the runt. Now you do. I mean, there's a thing where you can buy ugly looking vegetables because people feel sorry that the strange potatoes were being thrown away.
Can you imagine feeling sorry for a potato? I really think your life is so empty of real challenge and problems and anything of value if you start to look at potatoes and feel sorry for them. I can't ever take that seriously. There will never be a point in my life where someone says, and I felt sorry for the potato, and I go, oh, you're such a nice person for that. I think I will always look at someone who says something like that with just nothing but detestation. Really? That's your problem? All right. Yeah. We got a lot of things to get into still. We've got Dr. Hanan joining us just now, which will be good. We're going to talk about this Matthew and Sonia Booth thing with him. I'll get a few of the headlines up so we can look at some of those too. The DA in Ekurhuleni is facing a new challenge because Action SA has pulled out of their minority coalition. Again, I have to say, Action SA, by doing this, they may be, in their opinion, doing things out of principle. We know Herman Mashaba has no love for the DA, and he's sabotaged a couple of these coalitions. And maybe they have a point. I don't know. I haven't even looked at the story, but I just wish these politicians would put their differences aside and run the fucking place. Just run it. Just make sure everything works. How about you just make sure that people have electricity, water, roads that aren't full of sinkholes and potholes, and just like actually make sure the street lights are on and that there's no litter lying around. That would be good enough. If we could do that, like when we were talking to Mayor Mpho, a lot of people have been talking about that interview, actually. That's all we want from you. We don't actually give a damn what your political inclinations are. We don't care whether you get along with the people in the other parties. Merit. Find people who can do a job and put them in charge. That's all we want.
And do the job. No, you're right. Yeah.
Not hard. It's really not hard to do this. So listen to this quickly. This is from Lindy Nduli. She says, do I report a traffic cop who took my driver's license and forcefully tried to extort me on the weekend? I drove away and left him with it. It's a tough one. I think you did the right thing.
Do you bother reporting it?
If he refused to give you your license back, then you did the right thing by driving away. But now you'll have to go and get a new license, which is a pain.
I've told you guys the story about my friend's uncle who got bumped by a police officer. And then the police officer actually turned out to be drunk on duty. And apparently this is like a huge deal. Like if this were to come out, I mean, he's losing his job and everything. Right. So my uncle was actually on his way to the police station. He was like, I'm going to go report you. And this dude attacked, I mean, it's not my uncle. This dude attacked my friend's uncle with a knife and stabbed him. And then he tried to actually cover himself and got stabbed in the hand. It actually cut his hand in half. This cop was actually trying to like murder him. Because he was like, listen, it's my job or your life.
Yep.
But I mean, this is the thing about people who go into the police or a lot of these professions where you have a lot of power over people. And obviously there are good police people. There are men and women in our police who are trying their best to do the right thing, to look after each other and the country and society at large. And, they'll do their best to make things better. But then there are also a bunch of just shitheads who have no self-respect. They have no ability to help anyone else. They're completely driven by power and goes to their head, and they abuse that power. And to me, this is a perfect example of that kind of thing. It's just awful. Like this, is this guy okay? Can he still use his hand?
He is fine now. I'm not so sure about the hand, but he did have some hectic surgery and stitches and all that. I don't know if the hand is fine now. But yeah, I mean, he also actually is pursuing what's it called? He's suing that police department. The police department. He's actually suing. So yeah, let's see how that turns out.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, it is that time of the morning where we check in with Dr. Hanan Buskhin, renowned psychologist and head of the Anxiety and Trauma Clinic in Johannesburg, and also recently nominated for an Achievers Award, which we didn't mention. We were Dr. Hanan has got like probably a shelf full of these things, so it's no big deal. But I forgot to mention last week because he was actually hoping people would vote. But Doc, well done on that one.
It's very kind of you. I always feel so blind, kind of like with the self-adulation, but I do appreciate it. And I'm glad we're able to dispense value to people who need it most, and I've been recognized for it. And if you get a chance, please go and vote. I'll put the link up on my Instagram story.
So we can do that still now?
Yes. Today's the last day.
Okay, brilliant. So we still squeeze this in. So go and vote for Dr. Hanan. You can find him on his Instagram, and all the links will be there as well. So you can go and vote for him. And because he's here giving us free, mental health advice every week, and we talk about all kinds of stuff, and he's a busy man. So this is your way of repaying him. Go and vote for him in this award. It'll be a nice one to put on the shelf. And Doc, someone said to me once, even if you're the kind of person who doesn't really care about awards, I'm not sure whether you are or not, I try not to take awards too seriously. But what you got to realize is sometimes it's not about you receiving it. It's about the people giving it. They want to recognize you. And especially if it's something like this where people vote, because then it's the people who really care about what you've done. And it would be ungrateful of you to not accept that, with a bit of grace.
I think that's such a great point. And I've had to put kind of my ego aside, and because whether I win the award or don't win the award, the journey continues, and still going to dispense value. But you're right, for the people that put in the effort and the time and the energy to recognize this achievement, yeah, obviously I've got to be open to that. So thank you very much. I really appreciate the mention.
Cool. I'm glad I remembered this time, and I'm glad we still got time. Okay, so Doc, let's talk about this thing. It's been a big story in the news. We talked about it last week. It's very difficult when you know the people involved. And Sonia Booth used to have a show on Cliff Central, so she's a part of our family. She's kind of been, and I hope this isn't unkind to someone who's already going through a really tough time, but she's been unraveling a bit on social media. And really, this is something that is a new layer which maybe human beings haven't had to deal with, is the fact that now everyone is a public figure because everyone is on the internet. And now, obviously, for famous people, it's a whole lot worse. But now for all of us, if you put your stories out there, everyone is going to have an opinion, even the people who are not in any way involved. It's none of their business. But by you sharing that stuff, it becomes their business and they're entitled to an opinion. So we can't criticize them. You've decided to allow them into your world. But let's talk about some of these things. And really, I'd like you to take this in whatever direction you want to go, because there are a bunch of things here. There's infidelity, cheating in a marriage. There's gaslighting. I'm not cheating, especially in the case, I saw people passing around an ad where like Matthew Booth is busy saying, it's an HIV ad. And he's like, having a single partner is the safest thing you can do. Obviously, in retrospect, now the people who made that ad are feeling pretty stupid, but they didn't know what was going on here. But it is a kind of gaslighting. The effect on the kids, the stuff I spoke about now going public, the pressure of being a celebrity, all of that stuff. Where do you want to begin with this?
So for some reason, we put celebrities on a pedestal and we think they're superhuman. We all are subject and are slave to our own psychology. And we must understand that cheating happens for one or two or both reasons. One is because there's a great push away from a relationship. And or two, there's a great pull towards something else. So there's a concept in psychology called need bidding. Need bidding means that relationships work because needs are being fulfilled back and forth. So I need water, you've got water, I'm naturally going to connect to you. You need food, I've got food, you're naturally going to connect to me. The moment we do not give each other what we need, there'll be a natural disconnect. But listen to this, the moment we give each other what we don't need, there's a natural disconnect too. So we think by giving and giving and giving and giving, we're naturally going to create a connection. But actually, if you give someone what they don't need, they disconnect from you as much as if you don't fulfill what they do need. So for example, if you've just had a 7-course meal, you're stuffed, you can't think of food, and I now go and slave in the kitchen for 7 hours making the most incredible burger that you've ever had in your life and shove that burger down your throat. Naturally, you're going to resent me. And I'm going to resent you too because you don't appreciate me putting all the effort in making this burger. But the reason why you're going to resent me and why I'm going to resent you, well, because I fulfilled a need that you didn't have. You didn't have a need for food. People think that we need a lot. Actually, we don't need a lot. We need a little bit, but of what we do need. So going back to relationships, if you want to find a sense of connection, that's specifically, and I've discussed this on the show before, 9 essential elements to a romantic relationship, that 9 essential needs to make a romantic relationship work. There's communication, there's trust, there's common shared values, there's compromise, there's intimacy, attraction, the need to feel desired, practical contributions, and playfulness. And if you're able to fulfill those needs in a relationship, you're going to create this incredible pull towards your partner and vice versa. But remember, the reason why somebody breaks the rules is not just because there's a push, in other words, these needs are not being met, but also in comparison, there is a pull towards something else. And celebrities, unfortunately, are so exposed to these pulls because they hold so much power, so much resource. They perhaps are financially incredibly secure. They're in the limelight. They are in the kind of apex of the alpha male realm, a human society, and people are naturally drawn to them. So you might have an incredible relationship at home, but you're so exposed to alternatives that suddenly the pool becomes greater. And the alternatives, by the way, can, or rather what you have at home, can never compete with alternatives, ever, 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 ever. Because think about the challenges of a real relationship versus the benefit of a quick fix, or somebody that you've known for perhaps a couple of minutes or a couple of hours, or somebody that you only know when you're out. And what ends up happening, you're comparing a drug to real life. You compare a quick fix to the real benefit and the real difficulties of real life, and real life has absolutely no chance against the drug.
That is such an interesting point, because often people are judgmental about this. They're like immediately trying to assign blame, just like Mash was telling us about that aircraft crash over the weekend. People just desperately want to hold someone responsible, right? That's the good guy, that's the bad guy. And make it obvious that this is like a binary thing, that there's one person who's just evil and one person who's just good. I always wonder with those people, I wonder if those people actually even have a definition for evil, because that is one of the hardest things to define. You ask someone, how do you define evil? And it'll take them a very long time and a huge amount of mental energy to actually figure that out. So that's number one. But we're not by any means condoning this behavior or saying that that's an excuse, right?
Never, ever, ever, ever. But I will say that nobody's bigger than their temptation. If you think that you're bigger, your psychology, your emotional capacity is big enough to avoid temptation, you're just playing with fire. You know, I don't know if you remember, maybe 20, 25 years ago, there was a show on Mnet called Temptation Island. And I think they redid it a couple of years ago, but the original show had couples, the happiest couple that they could find, and they put them on an island. The guy was on the one side of the island, the woman was on the other side of the island. The guy was surrounded with 12 of the most beautiful girls they could find for them, and the girl was surrounded with the 12 of the most beautiful guys they could find for her. And the aim of the show is do not cheat on your partner. Avoid temptation. That's what they call it, Temptation Island. Do you know how many couples stayed faithful in the show?
None.
No.
Zero. Because if you think that you're bigger than the temptation, you're mistaken. It just doesn't work that way. So on day one, you'd be, no, of course I'm not going to do that. On day two, of course I'm not going to do that. But as you are exposed to the temptation more and more and more often, before you know it, you give yourself permission to slip away. So you're quite right. We are not saying that this is right in terms of a moral judgment, but we're just explaining behavior. If you are going to put yourself in situations where you're tempted, eventually your psychology wins and you're going to succumb to the temptation for sure.
Wow, that's a scary result for that show. I mean, I didn't watch the show. I remember it being on, but not one couple managed to stay faithful to each other. So that's worth discussing, but maybe we'll just skip across to the other stuff because there's a lot to cover here. What about this, this going public thing? Because for Sonia Booth, she's shared this story, and it's something that's been going on in her life for way longer than it's been on the internet. She's, according to the stories that are now coming out, she's been almost like gathering evidence over the course of a year or more as this has been happening. And then she decided, right, I'm putting this out there. I'm going to share this. What would you advise a client of yours about sharing this stuff on social media? And what would you say is the best course of action here? Because people also get really angry. There's nothing like a woman scorned, they say. But in this case, it could quite easily reverse the gender roles. It could be the guy who's scorned. But when people get hurt, they lash out. And they sometimes do things that are counterproductive to their own happiness. What would you advise a client?
All right. So obviously to the partner, this is a very painful experience to have your life partner, your husband, your wife have an affair, cheat on you and make you look like a fool. It's absolutely devastating. There's no question. And we should dedicate our whole show on how to deal if you had found out that your partner is having an affair, how to confront that person. But if a patient of mine comes to me and says, Hanan, what do I do with this situation? I would ask them a very important question. One, what do you want to achieve? What is the goal? Because how many times have I said on the show, don't allow your feelings to dictate your behavior. Feelings are liars. And what feels right today, straight after a cup of coffee, feels very wrong. So feelings change all the time, and feelings are varied, and they just not consistent. So you shouldn't base your decision based on how you feel. You should base your decision on whether it services your particular goal. So what I would ask anybody that's found out that their partner's having an affair, I would ask them, what do you want? What do you want? Put your feelings aside for 2 seconds. Practically, what do you want? So you might say, well, I want to get a divorce. Okay. I want a separation. I want to work it out with my husband because we have a family unit and I want to preserve the family unit. I want to get more information, because that's very important, because what has happened is with a partner that's been cheated on, they now want data. They are left in the unknown. They're left in limbo. Hold on. So you said you're there, but now you are figured out you're over there. You said you loved me. Did you really mean it? Hold on. When we were intimate, were you really thinking about me, or were you thinking about the other woman? A billion questions are going to arise, and the trust is broken. So again, I would ask the partner, what do you want to achieve? And then we look at the best strategy to create that. So if you want to get back together, okay, that's fair. There's no judgment there. You want to preserve your family unit, perfect. Is going on social media going to serve that? If the answer is yes, well, let's do it. And if the answer is no, which seems like it's just not the right answer, well, let's avoid that irrespective of what your feelings tell you. If you want to get a divorce, no problem. Let's go and figure this one out. You know, in life, sometimes life puts you in a position, and this is important, where you have a choice between easy and easy. Great. Sometimes life gives you a position between easy and difficult. Brilliant. But sometimes life gives you, puts you on the fence. It gives you the position or the choice between bad and even worse, where you don't have a good choice, where you have to sacrifice either. And I always tell people, whenever you're on the fence, and I'll end off with this, whenever you're on the fence, you have at least 4 different positions that you can take. You take position A or position B. You can take the position of, I don't know what to do, and let me go get information, or let me just sit on the fence and wait it out. The worst possible position to take in life is to sit on the fence and wait it out. Because I've always said, if you're not the chess player of your life, you're a pawn in someone else's. If you sit on the fence, you will always end up where other people want to take you. So don't sit on the fence. If you don't know what to do, go and get data. So I'm not too sure if I want to get a divorce. Go and get data to help you figure out and make a decision.
Sure. You see, we could talk, and maybe we should talk about how to respond to this kind of thing, and maybe what the best course of action is in a future episode. But we're out of time for this morning already, and we haven't even scratched the surface of this one. So Mash and Leigh-Ann, I'm sorry, you haven't even had a chance to ask any questions this time around, but we'll get Dr. Hanan on again, and hopefully we'll be able to uncover more of this, because these are real things that real people are dealing with on the daily, and it's not easy. It's tough. Human relations are never easy. They can be extremely rewarding. They can be the best thing about your life, but they can also be really, really awful and so hard and so painful. So thanks, Doc. And good luck with those awards. You can go and vote for Dr. Hanan on his Instagram. He's got all the links there where you can go follow through. And then he is up for an Achievers Award, which he rightly deserves. And we'll all go and vote and take part as well. So thank you very much, Dr.
Thank
Hanan
you very much, guys. Thank you very much. And thanks for the acknowledgement. I want to tell you, Cliff Central has certainly been a massive and intricate part of this. So thank you very, very much.
Thank you. All right, Doc. We'll see you soon. Thanks, man. There he is, Dr. Hanan, on a Monday, just to get our brains and our emotions and everything else right to start the week. I mean, it's the best way to start the week. Rebellious Ruth says, Dr. Phil once said, there is drama. If there is drama, don't involve the police or law unnecessarily, because then there's more shit. Perhaps the same applies here with social media. Yeah, that's probably good advice. Just remember also, every time you share anything on social media, you're inviting a whole lot of strangers into your life and into your house and into your relationship. And sometimes that is exactly the opposite of what you want. All right, we'll be back with a whole lot more. It is 7 o'clock, cliffcentral.com, Monday morning. We got Mash, we got Leigh-Ann, we got me, you, And we've got all the other people who are going to be joining us in a little while, including Debbie Droke over in Washington, D.C. I'm so happy that she's able to stay up late, because for her, it's going to be late at night or early in the morning, depending on your point of view. And she'll tell us what's been going on over there with the midterm elections that happened last week and so much more. Stick around, cliffcentral.com on a Monday. Hooray.
This week on the Auto Trader podcast.
First things first, you are Ben Pullen, correct?
I am.
Last time we checked.
Last time we checked, yes, and you're currently still the chairman and founder of Smart Mobility, correct?
I am, yeah. There's been a few changes actually since I came into the ghost town office back in the pandemic. It was just the three of us.
Yeah.
So I guess the main thing is that the portfolio of events that I had built was basically taken on by Vuka Group, which has been a great opportunity for us to basically build on what we had already built.
Catch us every Monday at 9 a.m. on YouTube and on autotrader.co.za.
It's the decade that just won't go away, mainly because we won't let it. It's That 80s Show, the show that taste forgot. Every Friday, Paolo and Dory remember the 80s. Movies, music, fashion, wham, beachies, and the half. If it was acceptable in the 80s, it will get you cancelled today. That 80s Show, new episode every Friday, live or as a podcast on cliffcentral.com.
All right. It is Monday morning. Mash has rearranged the headgear. Do you prefer wearing your headphones like that with a band? Oh, no, it's your cap. Sorry, I thought it was your headphones.
It's my cap. No.
Okay. Sorry.
With a band.
There we go. All right. Is there anything that new that we need to add to the Sonia Matthew Booth stuff that's come out? Because I actually really, honest to God, did not pay any attention to social media over the weekend. Did I miss anything?
Well, people have been attacking Bongani, who is Matthew's side piece. She's been very not vocal about this, but she's just been like keeping it moving, sharing stuff on social media. And she gyms at a Virgin Active, and she just started posting videos of herself at Virgin Active doing her spinning class, and saying all kinds of things to just make us seem like, when somebody's trying too hard to act like they don't care. And maybe she doesn't care, but that's how it's coming across on social media. And people are attacking her, and they were like, actually, they weren't even attacking her in particular. They were actually asking Virgin Active that, is this your ambassador? Because she kept walking around the Virgin Active and showcasing like different things written on the wall.
This is like such a cancel move. And I hate this cancel stuff, because you do not have the right to get in the way of someone else's livelihood or income or their business relationships just because you disapprove, as some member of the public who's not even connected to the story, of what they've done. Now, I don't know who this person is. I also hate the way that there are people in this world who love to blame the third party because it means they don't have to blame the people who've actually dissolved or ruined or got in the way of the relationship working out. Much easier to blame the third party. It's like, oh, she's the bad one. Again, it's assigning blame, right?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
It absolutely is. So they were just like, Vision Active, are these the kind of people you have representing you? And Vision Active was like, huh? Wait, what?
What's got to do with them?
What do we have to do with this person?
Don't draw the gym into. Can you imagine? Then they're going to go to the coffee shop that she stops at on her way home and say, do you really approve of having adultery in your coffee shop? Do you want to? I reckon anyone who says that, we should go into their history, and we should get like an investigative reporter to follow them around, and we find out what skeletons are in their cupboards, because those people have a cheek going after somebody. Listen, again, I don't know her. I do know Sonia. I feel for Sonia, obviously, as someone that I know. But who the hell do you think you are, like, inserting yourself into this? And I'll guarantee you, if you looked into those people's lives, they are full of problems. Their lives are full of that's why they're so busy following someone else's ups and downs on social media, just because they realize like what shit their own lives are. Anyway,
yeah. And this takes me back to so this week's episode of the Third Draft podcast, we actually interviewed a couple. So it's a couple, a YouTube couple, and they actually have an Instagram account together. They have socials together. They have everything together as a couple. And this ties back to this because we actually did discuss with them about how, okay, so if you guys break up, who gets the YouTube channel? If you guys break up, who gets the Instagram account, and so forth and so on. And these are things that
people... Did they have an answer for that stuff? Because some couples don't think about it. Oh, they did. Okay.
They did, but you'd have to tune in to find out. But it goes back to the same old thing that most couples share the good, the positive, you know? And people are always saying on social media, but when you guys break up, you never give us the inside scoop. You guys just put out a statement and that's it. We want to see that as well. Well, now Sonia is giving us some of that. Is giving us some of the fighting and what's been happening in the back. Now people don't know how to act anymore because they're like, "Hi, man." So it actually reminds us that we actually don't want to see that.
No, I hate this stuff. I'm in the minority here. I know. There are lots of people who just love seeing other people's dirty laundry aired. It gives me no joy at all. Whether I know the people or not, it's just so tacky and gross.
It is.
Yeah, I'm completely with you. And the thing as well is that when you're in a situation like this in the public eye, it's very tempting to put out the truth on your social media so that, you know, everyone knows your side of the story. But all it does is invite a second drama. It's never ending. And then you reply to that and there's more.
Yes.
Yeah.
Too much. Yes. That's all it does.
Oh, well,
it doesn't make things better.
Sanella is saying here, she's carrying on with her life. What must happen now? She must die because she had sex with the guy. Woke cancel culture must go and fly a kite. I couldn't agree more. I could not agree more. All right. So, I mean, we could talk about this some more, but I think we're kind of done with it. Mash wants to know, what would you do if your nudes got leaked? And this did come up the other day on the show, and I think we talked about it very briefly. But are you asking because this has happened now, Mash, with your OnlyFans? Is this a real problem you're dealing with? Why did you bring this up?
Gareth, my nudes have leaked multiple times, so I'm over it at this point.
You don't even give a shit.
But yeah, I don't give a shit anymore. But it just started crossing my mind because I did listen to a conversation with Sis Pumi last week when you guys did discuss briefly what happened to Zanele's Fuba. And I thought to myself, geez, this is okay. Imagine if it does leak, right, to this extent where it actually goes public and it's just circulating all over social media. How would you handle it? How would you act like you don't care, like Bongani is acting?
So
how would you handle
you spoke about this Sfuba woman who was in the Free State Legislature, right? She's the speaker or something, and this supposedly Nigerian dude has been leaking her pictures, and he was trying to extort money from her. And you remember there was that famous lawyer whose name escapes me right now, but about a year ago, almost, whose nudes were leaked. Spoor, what's his name?
Where? In South Africa?
Oh, yeah. Remember,
South
there's that.
African.
Yes, South African lawyer, man. He's kind of very vocal on Twitter too. And then I can't remember I think it's Spoor, something like that. Anyway, he was kind of, his pictures were circulated on social media. People were making big jokes about him and everything else. But a year later, I can promise you, no one's talking about him except us right now. I mentioned him on the
show. You don't even remember.
There we go, Richard Spoor. You see?
Yeah.
You see. Like, so what's the worst that happened? For a week or two, he was embarrassed, maybe a bit longer. Now, who's sitting there going, whoa, Richard Spoor's nudes leaked. And no one's, you'd have to be half asleep to think that that's going to get you any attention now. So you just forget about it. You just move on. Let it be.
I'm seeing this article. It says Richard Spoor's beer leaked on Twitter.
Yeah, there we go. And that was a year ago, right? Does it have a date on it?
Yes. This was in September 2021.
See, there we go.
So it was about a year ago.
Little more than a year. But I can promise you, like, everybody thinks this is the worst. Okay, let's be fair about this. If you have done something illegal, you've broken the law, you've done something really terrible. Let's say you hit someone with your car, or God forbid, something like that, then that's not going to just go away. There are proper consequences to that. But if your naked body ends up being shared on the internet, and I think we've said, all of us at some point on the show, that everyone will end up naked on the internet one day. Everyone. It's not going to be a big thing in the future. Some people are selling their nudes right now, like MASH. I mean, you can go and subscribe to his OnlyFans and you can see anything you want, and he'll take your money. But there are people, and this is maybe something we could also talk to Dr. Hanan about. There are people who they get so depressed and worried about what everyone else, especially strangers, think of them, that they would self-harm. They would commit suicide. They would try to commit suicide. They would they'd sell everything and move to a new country or do something drastic, when the consequences of something like that would be so minor that, of course, it would be slightly embarrassing in the short term. We're not talking about big things like, again, you were caught stealing from, the taxpayer or whatever. Those are big things that have consequences. But if you're some famous lawyer and your penis is suddenly all over the internet, just move on. And don't let anyone try to extort money from you, right?
Yes. I mean, how long can a person actually look at that photo until it doesn't mean anything anymore? They're not going to wake up every single day and go, oh, yes, there was that nude of Leigh-Ann Mole, and look at it.
No, well, I mean, it also, think about this.
You can look at it once or twice and walk away.
And the kind of people who would be obsessed with it are the kind of people who are way more interested in you than they should be, to put it mildly.
A little unhealthily interested.
So I mean, was this based on the conversation I had with Pumi? Because I think,
yes,
if anyone ever tries to do this to you, just say to them, go ahead, like, do it. I don't give a shit, and you'll be fine. Like, a couple of weeks later, no one will even care anymore. That's how it goes.
Reminds me of
you're not hurting people, breaking the law, doing damage to society, hurting yourself. Like, as long as there are no long-term consequences, this kind of thing is just not going to matter in the big scheme of things.
Because you're the victim in this case. And it goes back to something that happened a number of years ago. It's actually a singer, Sia Furla, the singer. Yeah. They actually caught a picture of her wearing, I think she was wearing a bikini. Or I think her bum, I think she was bare bummed or something.
Okay.
And then a picture of her was caught bare bummed, and then they tried to extort her of money. And they were like, listen, pay us or we are exposing this. We are putting this out there. And what she did was actually so admirable, in my opinion. she posted the picture herself, and she's like, "Listen, some people are trying to blackmail me. So here's the picture.
Yeah.
Here you go. Enjoy." So I think that would be the most appropriate way to handle it, because I mean, one thing I know about blackmailers is they'll never stop. You pay them once, you'll be paying for the rest of your life.
Yeah, that's it. So, they'll say, oh, well, if you give me whatever, 500 Rand, 5 grand, whatever they think it's worth, and then you give them that money, then they're just going to come after you for more.
Yeah.
Because they've always
absolutely.
got a copy of that. It's not like these days you have to go to the photographic developer down the road, the Kodak shop, and then they have to make a copy of the photograph. I mean, now you can digitally copy anything you want, right?
Yes, you can. You absolutely can.
You don't know how many copies someone has of something.
And also, I'm on social media after the whole Zanele Fuba thing. I remember Prince KB also came on social media, and he also was a victim of his schlong being exposed on social media last year sometime, and it trended quite a bit because
schlong. That's a good word.
I haven't used that one in a while.
I know.
Show me your schlong.
Leigh-Ann was sending these messages all weekend. So show me a schlong.
And it was pretty long. That's why it trended so much. But he came on social media commenting on the Zanele Fuba debacle, and he said that when his junk was exposed, his mother actually called him crying. And she was just crying, saying, what were you doing?
Oh, shame.
Yeah, it was the most saddest thing. But it reminded me that it's not just about you, it's about your family as well. Because your family, I mean, in their community, people are looking at them more than they're looking at you.
Yeah.
So there's so many factors to this.
There's so much. Let's just look at one or two quick headlines so that they don't say we just talk nonsense on the show on Mondays. Oh, you guys just talk shit about
schlongs.
your own life of schlongs. Yeah. So first of all, here's Bihlang, who had a message for us. So let's listen to what Bihlang has to say here.
Hey, morning squad.
Mm-hmm.
Papa G is Bihlang here. Democrats have kept the Senate, and it looks like they might as well keep retain the House as well. I wonder, how do you feel about that? You are such a Biden Kamala Harris hater, and I'm loving this.
Yeah, we'll talk to Debbie Droke about it just now, because she's a major Joe Biden fan. She's a Democrat through and through, and she and I have had many arguments and discussions, always like friendly ones because we like each other. But she was on my TV show when I was still doing that with ENCA last year as a guest, and she and I are not professional pundits. We're not, we're just observers. But we like to have opinions on these things. The truth is, I'm not that attached to this outcome. I didn't even spend the day like I might have done in previous elections, because I used to be a bit of a U.S. election nerd. So I would sit there and I'd have like 3 screens going at once, and I'd be like, "Oh, okay, this result just came in from Alaska," and I'd be like I was pretending in my head. I don't even know. I must have thought I was like doing a live election update show. And I thought it was so important that I knew what was going on. Like now, I don't think I watched more than 5 minutes of the US elections. So, Bihlang, the truth is, sad to say this, I don't care what the result is. I'm not that in.
Always, you would say to me, Gareth, does this mean that you're just giving up? So you're just giving up. You're going to weigh flats now.
No, so obviously, whatever happens in the US, this is why we spoke to 2 different journalists in the last 2 weeks. I'm interested in it because I need to know what's going on there. Otherwise, it's a big geopolitical story. The US elections has an effect downstream on us. So you can't be, I don't care about that, because you have to care a little bit about it.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't care as much as I used to, is the point. I don't get upset about it like I used to. And I look at someone like Donald Trump, and the way he's kind of almost tantruming a little bit online since the election, and I just looks so dumb. It just looks so. Here's a guy, you've won at life, dude. You've really had a great life. You've done amazing things. You became president of the United States out of nowhere. You've got billions of dollars in the bank. You've got this beautiful wife. You've got a family who clearly love you. Just take that and retire gracefully. Like, just enjoy your life. We definitely won here. We're not losers. I'm going to enter the race again. Ron DeSantis is Ron sanctimonious, desanctimonious. I mean, come on. It's just so unbecoming. I see this stuff and I just want to get away from it, It doesn't turn me on the way that it used to. There we go. Pichling. All right. So apparently also Banksy, the famous artist, has unveiled a Ukraine gymnast mural on a building that was shelled by Russia. Banksy pitches up and does this amazing street art, and then it becomes very, very valuable. And obviously, because they're murals, you can't exactly put a frame around it and move it to a museum. It has to be in situ, so it has to be in a place where it is most relevant. And that's, I suppose, what makes the art so valuable too. But Banksy has made this mural of a Ukraine gymnast on this building, and the building has been shelled by Russia. So it's an interesting thing, especially if you're an art fan, to have a look at this. So let me see if I can find a picture of this quickly. But you know about Banksy, right?
Yes. Absolutely. And what I loved about this picture is that he used a building that had been partially destroyed during all of the during the war, and used a gymnast on it to, I think, just show strength, even though the world's crumbling beneath them.
Well,
and there was actually, yeah.
Sorry, I should clear this up, because the gymnast is a kid, and then the person who this kid is taking down is supposed to be Vladimir Putin.
That's a different one. That's a different one. So there's one with. That's the second one. That one hasn't been confirmed as Banksy, but if you look at the shadowing and the detail and the color, it's very similar to the gymnast. But yes, that is meant to be Putin and a young kid taking him down in some kind of martial art.
Okay, so there's another one.
Yeah, okay, the other one is also a young female gymnast.
Okay, got it.
She's by herself, but it's very similar in the shading and the black and white coloring. So that the gymnast one has been confirmed to be Banksy.
I still haven't figured out who Banksy is, huh? They still don't know exactly who. Some people claim they know who.
Yeah, I think I saw something recently where he'd come out. That's also a different one. The one with him, the one that's being featured at the moment.
These things are a dime a dozen. Like, how can they be valuable if there are 500 of them on the internet?
There's so many.
I don't know what news article you're using, but the one that was featured is where the gymnast is doing a handstand. So she's featured upside down.
Okay, here it is. There is another one. Oh my God, this is really. Listen, I didn't know there were so many of these.
Are these all Banksy?
They're all supposedly Banksy.
Only one's confirmed to be Banksy.
All right, whatever. I mean, I'm trying. Yeah, we just on 3. We're like, okay. So here's the one that we're talking about now. Third time lucky, everybody. Here's the supposedly famous Banksy. So it's this one, right? Gymnast standing on the rubble, hand standing on the rubble with her legs in a kind of, one leg's forward, one leg's back. It's quite an interesting pose. It's a very gymnastic pose. Gareth, you should know it's all about the show, giving people what they want. I'm not sure what exactly. Oh, you're talking about the US elections. Okay, cool. Sanela says, back to the penises and the schlong. Sanela says, people are hilarious. People ended up focusing on the ashiness of Prince's schlong rather than anything else. Is that true?
Yes.
Is that true, Mash?
Yeah.
They started focusing on the ashiness of his penis.
Yeah, to like put some lotion on that thing.
Oh, people are dicks. And I mean that with all the double
Yeah.
entendre. Really unbelievable.
Ish.
Okay.
Maybe that's why
There
his
are
mom was
photos-
crying. Yeah.
Apparently, there are photos of Trump doing the rounds, taken by a Secret Service agent while Donald is getting a spray tan, butt naked. Ugh.
Oh no, I
Really?
don't want to see that.
Wait, I've seen those. I think those are fake. I've seen those.
Mm.
Oh, jeez.
That is a horrible thought. I had to take a moment to not throw up. Jesus, that's so bad.
Yeah.
All right, and then the police minister, Becky Cele, has pleaded ignorance on the Pala Pala burglary. You know, these politicians, whenever they're caught with their pants down, he's pretending he doesn't know how this could have happened. Oh, no, I don't know. Ignorant. I had no idea, he says. This is Becky Cele. So who believes him? Hands up, anybody? No, I didn't think so. So EWN are reporting this morning that in his latest response to a written question from the DA, Cele said neither he nor his office was informed of the theft of the currency from the president's farm. But who are you trying to kid, dude? It was front page news and continues to be news. Everyone in the country knows that his sofa was stuffed with cash. Are you just going to pretend that that's not something worth investigating? Aren't you and the police there to make sure that crime is not committed? And if it is committed, that it is prosecuted? Surely that's your job.
Hey. I'm surprised Mr. Shoot to Kill is not going to pretend like he knew what wasn't happening this whole time. And I'm sure if you actually went through records and actually dug deep enough, you might find that he was at the same place at the same time.
Yeah, right. All right. Well, there we go. Those are some of the news headlines. I know you've got some other things you want to get off your chest this morning, Ass, and it doesn't have anything to do with perimenopause. This is alcohol continues to be a really big theme on this show, especially on Mondays. Anybody who had I had a bit of an exciting Friday. I mentioned that I was going to dinner with some cool people. I went to dinner with Vinnie Lingham, who, of course, is the well-known South African tech millionaire. He's an absolutely brilliant guy. He started a number of businesses, and he's an investor across even more. Such an interesting dude, and I got to spend the evening with him and his two brothers, and there were a few other people at the dinner as well. We just had a really, really interesting time. And even there, he was coming up with brilliant ideas. I'm going to see if we can't get him on the show tomorrow because he's in South Africa for a little bit. And he had one suggestion that I thought was just so brilliant, and it could solve a lot of problems in one fell swoop. You know, this is why I love meeting and spending time around truly brilliant people, because they just see a clear path to things that the rest of us just don't. We don't get it. You know, the rest of us have to be led by the nose, and people like Vinny, just absolutely brilliant. Anyway, so I had a few drinks with him. But what's the alcohol thing, Leigh-Ann? Tell us.
Oh, so every now and then we get from the WHO, the World Health Organization, a list of the 10 top alcohol consuming countries in the world. To remind you that this is measured in equivalent liters of pure alcohol per capita in people over 15 years of age. Okay. And there's always one country that we always know that there's one country that's going to be on the list. And this time I had a look and I was scrolling through, didn't see this country on the list. But one African country did make it onto the list. Whether you want to see that as a good thing or a bad thing is up to you.
Well, before you admit that it is or isn't us, do you remember when the universities in South Africa, there's some like beer drinking competition or something, and one of the universities lost it. They lost the beer competition, and then they actually scheduled like a massive drinking session that coming weekend after that. And they won back the title because they binge drank their way through a whole 48 hours or whatever and consumed more beer. I think it was Grahamstown. It had to be Rhodes. Rhodes University is just, you know, when it comes to drinking, those guys are unassailable, I believe. We'll give them the credit here this morning, whether they deserve it or not. But it's really, it's very funny that they publish this list, because I don't know if the countries want to be on here or if they don't want to be on here. Some people are very proud of being a country where there's binge drinking and alcoholism. Other countries are ashamed of it. So are we on the list is the only question people want to know.
Well, just to give you an idea, a lot of these countries would probably be proud. The focus is very much on beer and, local beers. So a lot of these European countries kind of compete in that field.
Right.
So in 10th place, for instance, you have Luxembourg. 9th is Bulgaria, also beer making nation. 8th place is where the African country comes in. And that is actually Uganda.
Not us.
Wow.
The only nation outside of Europe to crack the top 10. And it all comes down to malwa, which is brewed out of millet and maize, a classic drink enjoyed in the northern areas. Bushera is another traditional local drink made of sorghum.
Wow.
And finally, banana-based drinks, such as tonto and mwenge bigere, which is banana beer, are sold as staples on many drink menus.
Don't you really want to try the banana beer?
Yes, I do.
Bad.
When you're talking
Where
about
was that during lockdown? We had pineapple beer.
I know it's early Monday morning, and I don't want to sound like we've got a problem on the show, but wow. I mean, that does sound good, right?
Listen, there's a thing all over Europe that's a breakfast beer. Every country has their breakfast beer. So, and quite popularly, those do have fruit flavors. There's I think it's a Belgian peach breakfast beer, which I've had before, which is absolutely
Sounds
delicious.
lovely.
Sure.
In 7th place,
Nash like wiping his mouth. He's having such a good thought about this.
In 7th place, we have a little bit of a break from the beer, and it's onto the wine. And it's actually Europe's 3rd biggest producer of wine behind France and Italy, and that's Spain. Don't forget, they also enjoy their sangria there. So lots of liters going down there. Not very surprising. In 6th place is Ireland.
The Irish can drink. Oh my God!
Very celebrated pastime.
Whenever I'm called over to a table of Irish people, I try to get away from them as quickly as possible. Not because I don't like Irish people. They're fantastic. They've got a great sense of humor. They're lovely, friendly, warm, cool people. But you just know if they're ordering the drinks, you're in big trouble.
And also, it doesn't matter what it is. It matters which beer it is. It's probably going to be Guinness. It matters which whiskey it is. But it's across all of the different types of alcohol as well.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah. In 5th place is Lithuania. Very proud of their beer drinking as well, but also some malts and other liquors.
Cool.
4th place is Germany. No questions asked.
I would have thought Germany would be, I really thought Germany
Number
would be
one.
like top 2, yeah.
Yeah.
Not
Okay,
quite.
what's 3?
3 is Moldova, and that's next to Bendova in the Balkans.
Okay.
They've also got a history of winemaking and another fermented cherries, raspberries, gooseberries. Actually sounds amazing.
Sounds lovely.
All right. So you got to go to Moldova.
Yes. In 2nd place, Latvia.
Wow.
They're very much beers again. They've got something called the traditional Riga Black Balsam, which is considered the national drink. Vodka as well, because of their Russian immigrants, and beer as well.
Wait, before you get to number 1.
Yeah.
First of all, I thought South Africa would be on the list for wine because
we've been on the list before.
In previous years.
No, we're not on this one.
Yeah, you must remember. Think about it. These stats were probably farmed during COVID, where we weren't drinking at all.
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
yes, makes sense.
Well, then,
So that makes sense to me.
We were drinking.
Everybody take a moment to just relax. If we're not on this list, it doesn't mean we failed as a country. What is the number 1 country, Leigh-Ann?
Number 1 is the Czech Republic.
Ah, very good. Pilsner beer is there.
Pilsner beer. That's it. Iconic crisp Pilsner.
The king of beers.
Absolutely. And it's all sorts of golden brews that make up this country's annual intake. So the country that I was surprised not to see, which is usually on the list, is Australia.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Maybe this is more about what you produce than how much you drink, because
that's what I think.
Yeah, because Australia and Britain, I don't think they produce as much beer as some of these other countries, and certainly if they do, it's very commercial, straightforward, maybe machine, processed beer. Whereas these, we're talking about very specific kinds of beers that all of these different countries produce. Anyway, it's interesting. I'll tell you who's probably ready to have a beer. First of all, I'm just delighted that she would stay up so late to talk to us, because I haven't spoken to her for a while, and I love talking to this woman. She makes me happy. She's also probably already very happy because the elections in America didn't go exactly the way that the Republicans or the polls, frankly, were saying they would go. All the polls are saying it was going to be a Republican red wave, and that hasn't happened. Debbie Droke, aren't you excited?
Yes, I'm excited to be on your show, because I really thought when you wanted me to come on at this particular time, it was going to be a nanny poo-poo. And now it's a nanny poo-poo to you. I should have, you already owe me one dinner. We should have made another bet.
I do owe you a dinner.
Yes, you do.
Glad you reminded me about that. We have to fix it. I'll have to come to Washington, and you'll have to come here, but we'll do it.
We keep on talking about it. I was there. You were sick. That was in May. No, I was there in September, and you were really sick.
That was where but I felt so shitty about dropping you, because it's not often that we see each other. Anyway, Debbie, so let's look at this. Now, first of all, anybody that you think is sexy and wonderful that you can't wait to congratulate for winning an election. We know that you're a Democrat. We know that you like the Dems. Who's your favorite Democrat at the moment? Is it Joe? Is it Joe Biden? Old Joe?
I think maybe because I've spent time with him. I love Joe. I think he's a great guy, and he's doing the best that he can. And listen, America spoke. And I listened to your interview. Well, not all of it, but is it David Smith?
Yeah, David Smith.
Yeah. And I was out. He said he was there at the Supreme Court after Roe v. Wade was overturned, and he said it was just really emotional. I was there, and we had to chant, "This is what democracy looks like." And I don't really know what would have happened if Roe v. Wade had not been overturned. Our constitutional right had been overturned. That when I was 17 years old, I was marching with Gloria Steinem in Miami for this very issue, and I never thought that I would ever have to worry about that again. So I think that had a big effect on getting mobilization, not only for women, but for men too, because a lot of the stuff that was coming out was contraceptives and what's going to be next. And is it going to be gay marriage? We have quite a few zealots.
This is like the slippery slope argument, and it's being used in the opposite direction to the way it's usually being used. But I mean, this is all, it's interesting, like the strategy on abortion for this election, if we can just get into that for a second, because I did pay enough attention to see how the Democrats did kind of switch strategies a couple of times during the campaign. And that would be normal for anybody. You change your strategy based on information. You also try to figure out what the electorate want, because you want to win votes.
Right.
And it seems to be like America, despite the Republicans on the very extreme right saying, they are pro-life, they do not believe in any exceptions, perhaps incest and rape, and that's it. But
no, not even incest and rape. No,
I'm pretty sure that there are only a handful of people who even would countenance that is, that has to happen. But there are also not that many people who say, oh, well, you should be able to abort a baby like right up to the day of birth. What it is like the reasonable American is somewhere in the middle. They're like, you know what? A woman should have a right to choose up to a certain stage. Most Americans, whether they're Republicans or Democrats, are kind of in the middle there. So that's not a big election issue. if you're a pro-lifer, you shouldn't campaign on that because you're going to lose. And similarly, if you are, I mean, in certain states, you really can, abort a baby well into the 20th, 25th, 30th week because
That's
even in
very
Europe,
rare, and that's on the life of the mom. That's very rare.
sure, but even in Europe,
Yes.
they say 15 weeks, which is kind of what Ron DeSantis had in place in Florida.
No,
And
it's
most
longer
of
than
most of the
15
states,
weeks. It's longer than
really in
15 weeks in
Florida,
Europe. No, well, in Florida,
where
I'm
in
not
Europe?
quite sure.
I
I know
believe
here
it's,
in Virginia, it's 15 weeks. That's the norm. But in
yeah.
Texas, it's 6 weeks. You don't even know you're pregnant by then. And you've got these vigilantes that they'll make $10,000 if they turn you in. And, in South Carolina, and this is what, each state has a choice of whether or not they
Right.
want the abortions. And Kansas, which is very conservative, and oh my God, Kentucky took it off, that the abortion rights took
Yeah,
it
they
off.
did. That's right. And
Yeah.
people were
And
surprised because it's
so,
quite a red state.
and it's not necessarily, it is your choice. If you don't want an abortion, don't have it. And Republicans, there's a lot of people that are pro-life, but
Hmm.
incest and rape and the mother's life is at stake and there is no options. That's when the moderate, these people that, it makes sense. That's ridiculous. And I think the bottom line here is that Trump backed the most right-wing, zealots, and he didn't. And if he, what's scary is if he had backed moderate right-wing people, or Republicans, then we would be having a different conversation right now. And
Don't you think he's kind of running out of steam though?
yeah,
Because
I do. And
I,
the other thing people have to remember in America, when you are running for Congress, you have a certain district, and the congressional person usually takes on the image of that district. So
well,
it's
they're a
just that district.
representative. They're there
Right.
to represent their
Now,
district.
as a senator for the whole state, there's only 2.
Mhm.
And there's all different opinions in that particular state. And therein lies what happened with these right-wing zealots that Trump was backing, is because not everybody is as far right or is as far left. And they're moderates and they're like, enough is enough. And I
And I think
really think America spoke at this point.
I want to know whether you agree with this. Like
Okay.
a lot of people in America, just like in South Africa, they just want someone competent to run things because you had a lot of crazy stuff happening in the
Yeah.
last couple of years. COVID has made a lot of people crazy.
Right.
Donald Trump is clearly, I know he made you crazy, and I don't blame you because he still makes you crazy. I mean, I think you're one of the people who I know for a fact suffers from like Trump derangement syndrome, but I can't blame you because he couldn't help.
Do you blame me? I mean,
No,
come on.
I don't, because he couldn't even help just shutting his mouth
Yes.
before the midterms,
Yeah.
just to let the Republicans who are good and who are trying to do the right thing get the votes they deserve. He had to make it about him, even there.
All about
right?
him. Absolutely. And I think that eventually will be the ruination. And let me tell you, politics, I mean, they will turn on you in a nanosecond. And so now it looks like everyone's looking at DeSantis because he's the main man right now.
Who's your favorite Democrat if Joe Biden suddenly had to drop dead, because he is an old man.
You know what?
Very, very old man. Who would you like to take over?
I love Pete Buttigieg. He's my guy. But,
Really?
I was talking about Daniela. I was talking about with my daughter, Daniela, tonight. Daniela. And we said, Biden hasn't committed yet. It's definitely not
No.
Kamala. Kamala has been silenced here. I mean, she has been.
Or she's just so unpopular and she's got nothing to say. I mean, she couldn't even win her own primary in her own state.
Well, I
Nobody
had
likes
a lot
Kamala.
of faith in
Nobody-
her, but
Not even her own staff like Kamala.
well, you know what, Gareth, I'm going to agree with you on that. And it's funny because, yeah, I've heard a lot about that. And she can't keep a staff, actually,
No,
is
bad.
the rumors that we have. But I don't know. I don't know who. I don't know. I
If
know
you
who
had
wants to
to,
run for president as a Republican, but
so if you had to choose, like if Debbie Droke was like the queen of the United States, and you got to choose any Republican to run against any Democrat, and you know, I know you're a dyed-in-the-wool Democrat. You're a
no, I like
registered.
some Republicans.
No, I know, but this is what I was getting to. Is like you and your husband Bill. You
Yeah.
voted on both sides of the ballots,
Yeah.
right? So you're
Oh,
not. You're not.
absolutely.
You. I think you are like a lot of us. You kind of have your favorite, but then if that party's not doing their job, or you really think that they've messed up so badly, you would vote for someone else.
Absolutely. It's just common sense. And
Who's in
common
your
sense.
fantasy? Who's in your fantasy league? If you had to pit
Oh,
the best
God.
Republican, like
You
let's say the
know-
Republican that you'd love to have rather than any other Republican, and which Democrat over all the others?
Oh gosh, Gareth, there was a, and I can't even remember his name now. He was a Republican governor for Maryland, and he couldn't run again because he did his 2 terms, and I can't even remember his name. Is it Hogan? No, wait a minute. I can't remember. And as for a Democrat, I would vote for him. I would vote for this former Maryland governor.
You're talking about Larry Hogan. That's right.
Larry Hogan. There you go.
Okay.
Great common sense, moderate, makes a lot of sense. I think he's pro-choice also.
You're registered in Virginia or Maryland?
Yeah. No, I'm in Virginia. We have Yonkin. Yeah, nobody claimed. Listen, this is a good thing. I was so fearful that with this Democratic win, that a lot of the Republicans would say it was fake and nobody, or rigged, and nobody has said anything yet. Except,
thank God,
no one has. Thank God.
Even though the Democrats have been calling all of these people election deniers for the whole of the last year.
They are election deniers, and most of the election deniers that Trump backed didn't make it. If Trump had just moved on, it's scary to think that if Trump had just shut his mouth, moved on, and got moderate Republicans that maybe quietly thought, of far right, I don't know where we would be, what the conversation would be right now. But
so what
Gareth,
is the thing that you and your what is the thing you and your family are talking about when like a week after these elections, because they build up and you've got all those terrible ads on TV the whole time, which we don't have to see here in South Africa.
Oh, they drove me crazy.
Are you relieved it's over?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And every one of them made it, was, even the Democrat was a little bit far-fetched too, but I think that some of the congressional people were very spot on with the Virginia, like congressional women. 2 women were running against each other. And, one woman, this Republican woman said that, and she's a police officer, God help the people that she gets in contact with. She said that if you're raped, that she really didn't think you could get pregnant because it wasn't organic enough. And I thought that can't be true. And she was recorded. So, I mean, these are the kinds of people that we need to get rid of. And we need to have moderate on both sides. I mean, there's far left that I don't agree with also.
The crazies. I mean, we also have crazies in government and in politics. I think all of us, whether we are more on the left, more on the right, somewhere in the center, whatever the case may be, most of us are not on the extremes. But all of us know that it's enough of this crazy, right?
Absolutely. And but then now I'm moving forward. I think Trump is going to be, it's going to be kind of laughable that on Tuesday he's going to announce. I mean, he still very much has a base, but the base he's lost control of also. Because remember, we had that TV show you were doing.
Yeah.
The underbelly of America has always been there, but they never had a voice, and now they do. And Trump Trump started all this, but he's going to be left behind. But we still have this base with this voice, and the QAnon people and all these crazy ass people are still going to have a voice, and somebody is going to represent them. The guy that I'm really worried about now, because I think Trump is in a rearview mirror, is DeSantis. Governor DeSantis.
Why don't you like him? What's wrong with him?
He's smarter than Trump. I'm trying to be cool here. He's smarter than Trump. People are rallying around him now. But he talks about canceling the woke. He's very proud of what he's done with You Can't Say Gay in Florida. He's actually he's treading very lightly, or he better tread lightly with Walt Disney World. You've heard what he's done with them.
He's not treading lightly. He's actually
he keeps on talking about it, right?
He's gone after them. He's because listen, I mean, this Don't Say Gable, that's not what it's called, Debbie. You know what it is, right? It's to have like preschool kids not exposed to like transgender story hour. Is that such a
come on? Transgender story hour? How many preschoolers and kindergarten kids are going to be even talking about transgender? I mean, it's so ridiculous. It's kind of like critical race theory that was only taught in college, and Youngkin won over that. That's
exactly right. Your governor is in play because these things do matter to the American people.
They don't.
Like abortion matters to you. No, I mean, I've interviewed Republicans, Debbie, and you know I love you, so I can argue with you properly.
Absolutely, and I love you back.
Tread carefully around each other. So I've interviewed Republicans who are as passionate about this issue, about kids and what kind of books are in the school library and what they want their kids exposed to.
And so what do? They burn them.
No, they don't.
We've had burning books in Richmond.
Listen.
We have.
Debbie,
they have burned books in Richmond.
So these people are as crazy about this issue as you are about abortion. And I'm not saying crazy in your case is a bad thing or in theirs. They care about this issue. You can't just say it doesn't matter because it doesn't matter to you, because that's like them saying, I don't care about Debi Droke and her abortion views. She's a left-wing libtard.
That's
I don't
right.
agree with either of those.
And I'm damn proud of it. No, but there's got to be some sense to all this. There's got to be, why make something that isn't an issue an issue? And why take books out of a library because it doesn't equate to what your Christian supposedly beliefs are? Oh yeah.
Have you seen these books? These books go into detail. These are books for like primary school kids about how you give oral sex. I'm sorry, if I were a parent, I wouldn't want my kids seeing that in the library.
That was not primary. That was high school. And you know what? They could just go on the internet and find that. And that was one book. You're talking about one book. So it makes, again, sensationalism. So get that book out because somebody is having oral sex. So you throw that book out. You don't burn it. You just get rid of it.
You're reading off the Democrat talking points.
No, I'm not. You're reading off the Republican.
You know what I've missed? I've missed having an argument with you. We need to have more arguments.
Yeah.
Gareth, you just missed arguing. Full stop.
I miss
arguing.
Yes.
I miss arguing with Debbie. That's what I miss.
He didn't do the national anthem this time. He's you always had the national anthem on when I came on. So you're I
should say that to you now anyway. Make you feel at home.
It's okay.
No,
it's okay.
I always like to play. Make you feel like we're paying attention to you. We care about you. So let me play your national anthem. That's a good point.
Thank you.
I was remiss. So here we go. I could play the Stars and Stripes. Or do you want the actual anthem?
Oh, the actual anthem. If you're going to do it, let's do it. I'm very proud of America right now. It would have been a different story.
Just by the way, you talk about the Democrat victory, but it isn't really.
No,
All they've
it
done
isn't.
is they've held the Senate, and they will
Yeah.
lose the House, and it's going to mean.
Well, no, wait a minute. There's
Joe
20
Biden has to.
20 openings. We have to win 14. We probably won't, but we're doing a hell of a lot better than we thought we were, and we have a lot of work to do. You know, Gareth, you did a open letter, or you did something. I read it, where you said that you've gotten off the social media and you don't want to argue, and you know,
Yeah.
and that's what I did. I had to block some people and stop using my energy for something that was just a waste. So what I did is I joined a women's activist group, and I'm doing grassroots efforts, and we have so much to do to make America better, and to make it more less, you know, we're so polarized right now, and I think America is, in
Don't
all
you-
seriousness.
Do you want to make America great again?
Don't even say that to me. Don't even freaking say that to me. That was bullshit.
It sounded like you
No,
did.
we have a lot of work to do for 24, and we've got to get a good Democratic candidate if Joe doesn't run, but I think he will. But I don't know anybody other than Obama that, and that's another thing you said to David. Are they getting like so desperate they have to bring Obama out? Obama was a former president of the United States of America.
Yeah, but
You bring
you
out
don't-
whoever you can
I'm
that will
sorry.
make people listen.
You don't. When last did the Republicans trot George W. Bush out on?
George
on the
W. has chosen not to, but when did George truck himself out when he went up against Trump? And he never was public about anything, but he became
Oh,
public
please.
when he didn't agree. So Bush, whoever thought that I would like Bush? I freaking miss Bush.
I know.
So look, you've got somebody like Obama who just whipped Georgia into shape, with Herschel Walker. He was hysterical. He said, Herschel Walker was a great football player, hell of a football player. But he said if he was walking down the corridor at an airport, and he says, hey, I'm going to fly this plane, you'd go, whoa, what do you mean I'm going to fly this plane? Are you qualified? Well, no,
Yeah.
I can just do it. So the
like
same
that-
with
like
being
that
a
guy-
senator. They
Yeah,
got
like
him
that-
from
like-
Texas and made him move to Georgia.
Yeah, like the new senator for Pennsylvania who's brain damaged and had a stroke. Yeah, let's go with people who are qualified.
Hell of a
Right?
lot better than Dr. Oz, who doesn't even live in Pennsylvania. All of a sudden, now he went back to
He doesn't
Jersey.
live in Pennsylvania, but how pathetic that these are the two best people they could find in Pennsylvania. It's actually
Fetterman
ridiculous.
is not a bad guy. Listen, I thought he did
Doesn't
quite
know
well.
whether he can't string a sentence together, just like your President Biden.
Poor Joe. Joe's getting a little bit old there.
old.
He worries me, but listen, he's doing some good things. So
Yeah, he's doing good things like spending trillions that he doesn't have and putting you guys into huge inflation
and
cycles.
giving people employment for infrastructure
Sure.
that we desperately need.
Yeah. Name
Yeah.
the bridge they're fixing. There isn't one. It's all just it's putting old people who were in jobs before back in their jobs since he made those stupid COVID rules. He and Trump. All right, listen.
Oh my God. This could go on forever and ever, guys, right?
Yeah, I don't think we're entertaining anyone
Well,
else now.
the
Nash
bad
and Leigh-Ann
thing
are
is
looking
I
forward.
love you, Gareth.
I love you too, and we'll get you on again. Thank you so much. Listen, I know how late it is there, and I really
just got off a
appreciate having you
plane, so
on.
don't worry about it. I was on a cruise for 4 days. So I think I'm still drunk.
Nice. That's great. Well, good for you. Good for you.
I don't drink.
All right.
I drank on the cruise, though, a little bit.
Well, you deserve it, especially after the elections. All right, Deb, nice to see you, and thank you for being on the show this
Love
morning.
you guys. Take care.
Listen,
Bye.
there we go. Debbie Droke, she's so great. Even though I disagree with everything she says. I just-
Everything. Just for the sake of disagreeing sometimes. Oh, word.
Listen, I'm afraid, like, the reality is that all over the world, politics it spoils people. It takes away their sense of humor. And they forget that you can be in a family. I mean, it rips families apart, right?
Yes.
Politics.
Huge.
You have to have a sense of humor about this. And even if I disagree with Debbie a lot, the nice thing about it is that we can laugh about it. We can have fun with it. And she can come on the show and she could say things that I totally disagree with. And it's okay. Thank God for that. The day that doesn't happen, we know we've got a problem.
Yeah.
That
I'm
side,
sorry.
it's insane.
Yeah, I'm sorry that you two had to sit and listen to us bickering like that. But
Oh
that's
no,
what
it was thoroughly entertaining.
Okay, good.
It was.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Don't forget to listen to Mash and Simpiwe's new episode of the Third Drop podcast. That is up and available. And we will see you tomorrow morning, 6 a.m. Be good. Cheers, everybody. Bye.